Best project management software for construction. I've done videos about this topic before. We're going to do something kind of neat. I do have to give Nate credit with Be the Hero Studios. He recommended going back and actually doing a double take, going back in history and seeing what are some of the additional things I would want to cover in looking back. And that's what we're going to do right now. Some really neat things that I've never talked about before. And if you're interested in that, stay with us on this video. So here are some things that, in looking back in this topic, that I really want to talk about, and let me go through them one by one. Let me first talk about field first versus office first software. If I'm going to select the best software for my project management systems, I want them to optimize the field. I want them to optimize the workers. I want the software to really take care of the foreman. And so one of the things I never covered before that I should say now, or that I am saying now, sorry, is that we really want it to make their lives easier, right? It's not just are we making the PM's lives easier, it's do the workers and the foremen benefit from this? That's a huge consideration, and I wish I would have said that before. Next, integration with existing workflows. You know, it's really difficult to change everything in a company and change the way everything happens, right? And so if I was to go back and do the video again where I talked about project management softwares, I would have said analyze it, what you're going to select based on how it ties into your existing way of doing business and existing workflows and existing softwares. It's a huge consideration. We've all been frustrated where it's like, we have to change everything about how we do business. Try and select a software that will match you as much as it possibly can. The next thing I want to say is scalability for the project size. This is absolutely crucial, right? How many times have you and I experienced a situation where you select a software that works on most projects, but now you're on a mega project and it breaks down, or now you're on a $200,000 project, like a smaller project, and it breaks down? There's nothing that will make those people angrier than to not think of them when we're selecting software. So think about the scalability first. The other one that I want to say is user interface, and I would say ease of use. Let me give you an example. Like there are softwares out there that like have every bell and whistle, right? Or it might be cheap, but there's just a lot of friction. Where we get most of our traction is when human beings can easily use it, right? I know there's a lot of fighting between iPhones and Androids. At the beginning, not now, and there's Android phones that are just as good as iPhones. Let me gain some favor with you. Early on, you'd have an iPhone, super easy, everything's thought out, and then you'd have the BlackBerry and the Android phones where it's like you had to be a software developer to even use the darn thing, but they were like, it can do everything. Yeah, but it wasn't well thought out. It's not easy to use. And so we're looking for the iPhone usability, and to everybody's credit, don't want to start a fight, Android has upped their game, right? And now they're both user-friendly. But that's really the perspective. We want softwares to be simple, frictionless as much as possible, and have a really nice graphical user interface. And the other one is like customization and flexibility. We do want, oh my gosh, this is so huge. We want the companies that are really listening to us and adapting with us. And so we don't want something that's going to be fixed that really forces us to do silly things. Oh my gosh, here's a good example. And this has to do with tax, one of my favorite things. I remember talking to a company that does tax software and tax consulting. And I asked the team, should we look at the path of critical flow or the critical chain? And should we do an analysis there? And actually the owner of the company was like, oh my gosh, Jason, we used to do this like 6 years ago. But since we've been using the software, it doesn't have that functionality, so we don't do it anymore. So literally they were changing their ways of doing business because of what the software can do. And so it was a regret. So definitely 100%, we need to be able to customize and have the flexibility to expand the software to meet our needs, not adjust to it. Here, let me go ahead and pause here. And instead of talking about new concepts that I never covered, let me talk about some things that haven't been like out and about and discussed in probably over a year. So let me just address a couple of those real quick. Stay with me. Number one, mobile accessibility and real-time updates. So we want to make sure that whatever software you're using, it can be accessed on your iPhone or your Android or your tablet or your iPad, that people can access it in the field so that the foreman can have access to it especially, and you don't have to do some massive upgrade to get updates. That automatically updates, the software automatically updates to the phone. That's crucial. I remember back in the day, and you probably remember with me, when we had to design specific applications and we would have to go and do a complete installation package device by device. Those devices should, or that application should be updated real time, and it should be fairly seamless, and it should go flow right through your natural upgrades and your updates on your device that you're using it. Second, from an investment standpoint, we need to really look at these. There's some great, I'm not going to tell you the names, but you know them. They're really popular in construction. One is a project management software. The other one is a pole planning last planner software. They're neat, but if you talk to corporate for a decent sized construction company, they're going to be like, yeah, I just could have checked for 1.2 million, right? Or, hey, for this project, we're going to have to spend 80 grand for the job, or 180 grand. And you're thinking to yourself, well, is this really worth it for that amount of money? I could literally hire another project engineer. Do I need that software, or do I want the money? So I think we should really analyze the software from a cost perspective. And don't just grandfather this in. These companies, the way they get you, they'll get you on one project, then two, then three, then four, and then only the CFO sees the bill. And then eventually you're like, 1.2 million? Analyze your software for construction based on whether or not you can afford it. And if you have to make the hard decision, do it, because there's a lot of things you can buy with that money. And remember that every dollar saved is a dollar earned. But in order to earn a new dollar, it'll cost you $10. So we really want to make sure that we do a good cost analysis on these softwares. The other one, and this is big, training and support. I remember back in the day, it's not like this anymore, and I'm not talking about Mac computers. I have one right here in front of me. But yeah, it used to be for normal PCs, you could buy a computer, and then these companies were famous or infamous for then you can't get a hold of them, you can't get support. And it wasn't until the Geek Squad at Best Buy came along that you could actually get your computer fixed. Same thing with software. Analyze your software based on whether or not you have support systems, you have training, and that you'll get help with the problems that you have as you're using the application. I heavily weight how much training that company has and how much support services they offer. And lastly, this is the last one that I haven't covered in a while, data security. This is a big thing. We're always trying to get scammed. In fact, I started our company with Apple computers because they're hacked less and they're more secure. Now you can hackers can hack Apple computers, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely a consideration for us. So that's hardware. From a software standpoint, we definitely want something that's secure, something that can't be hacked into, something that's behind a firewall, and we basically need to analyze that to where our company systems and our information are safe. And so those are some considerations. So this is a big deal because it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of, I would say, organizational capital. It takes a lot of energy to introduce or maintain certain applications throughout the organization. And we need technology to help us in construction with what we have going on. So these are some topics that I figured we could discuss that would really help the selection of our software that I haven't covered in a long time or forgot to cover before. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I am going to put this into a bullet list for you. On we go.